Today we're going to look at another one of the attributes of God, and it's another one of the incommunicable attributes of God. In other words, it's an attribute that is true of God, but not one that we can aspire to, not one that we will grow in as we mature spiritually. In fact, I would say with this particular attribute, the opposite would be true as we grow spiritually, and that is that God is self-sufficient. God is all he needs. He can accomplish his purposes without assistance from any other entity. Now, that doesn't mean that he never chooses to use other entities to accomplish his purposes, but he doesn't have to. It's not that God is sitting up in heaven and he was sitting there in heaven and he was saying, I'm lonely, so I think I should make people. Or I wish I had someone to love, so maybe I should create some human beings. God was completely self-sufficient in his relationships in the Trinity. He is completely self-sufficient to accomplish all of his purposes. In Acts chapter 17, when Paul was in Athens and he went to Mars Hill and he began to address the crowd there from the launching point of, you've set up this idol, this statue, to an unknown God. Let me tell you about that unknown God. And this is what Paul says. The God who made the world and all things in it, since he is Lord of heaven and earth, does not dwell in temples made with hands, nor is he served by human hands, as though he needed anything, since he himself gives to all people life and breath and all things. God doesn't need us. God doesn't need us to accomplish his purposes. God doesn't need us to make him fulfilled. Yet in spite of that, God chose to create people. He chose to have a relationship with people. And when we kind of thumbed our noses at God and said, we don't want anything to do with you, we think our ways are better, he made a way to restore that relationship through Jesus' death and resurrection. And so the reason that I said that this is an attribute of God that we probably should have in decreasing measure as we mature is that as we mature in our faith, we should realize that we are not self-sufficient. We cannot accomplish our purposes on our own. We cannot sustain ourselves without relationships outside of ourselves, both human relationships and a relationship with God. And as we grow in our faith, the more we realize, God, I need you. God, I need these other people that you have put in my life. God, I need the wisdom of your word. God, I need to be in community. I need to be in worship. In order for me to be sufficient, I have to rest on your sufficiency. I will never be sufficient in myself. And so today I would encourage you, especially if you're struggling, trying to keep everything together, trying to parcel yourself out so that you can get everything done. Take a minute to think about the fact that the all-sufficient God not only wants to have a relationship with you, but he wants to be your sufficiency. What a marvelous truth that we can cling to today.